Hey everyone. So we've got a barrage of filings that are due to arrive later on today. We've got the opposition to the motion for judgment on the pleadings and the oppositions to the Daubert motions, i.e., the expert, like to exclude the experts. And I got tagged in something on X yesterday, which made me really think about things actually and go back and look at some of the text messages. And I think there's been moments where, because Blake Lively has this perpetual habit of telling on herself, which we see over and over again in her interviews. However, whilst I do think that some of the text messages have been kind of carefully curated, just in case they ever got produced in evidence to kind of, tell a story and to back things up. I think they've been kind of like coordinated between the Lively kind of friendlies. But I do think there are moments where Lively has kind of shown her hand a bit. So I wanted to go back to this one. This is Taylor Swift and Blake Lively. This text message thread is dated the 12th of April. It is pretty much before any problem at all, right? Even the weight thing, the with Don Zaladino, the trainer, it is before all of this. And I remember when this was unsealed and I was doing my video reading it, the one thing that really struck me was the pure, like, overreaction from Blake Lively, because in this they're just talking about deceiving him. This is when Justin Baldoni came to Blake Lively's apartment. Taylor Swift showed up and was bigging him up and all this stuff. And then she's like, this message here, right? The most bonkers part to me is him saying to you that he doesn't know pop culture. Made me more mad than anything he's done to me. And the only thing he'd done at this point was try to push back on, allowing her to, make decisions on the wardrobe, on the script, and etc., etc. He hadn't, said no. He was just like, well, I want to do what I want to do, kind of thing. We've got things planned. We've already prepared things. He still bent over backwards anyway to accommodate all her whims, like changing location shoots and so on and so forth. But, there was no big problem. There was no incidents of harassment whatsoever. What Blake Lively alleged was harassment. So at this point, like, my first question, I guess, now rereading it is, what does she mean makes her more mad than anything he's done to her? Because he hasn't done anything. But then also at the time I read this back in January, I was like, wow, that is such an extreme reaction. I mean, she goes further down on, I've been raging ever since. And it's like, I don't understand. Like, why are you raging? Why are you raging? And then she's like, just constantly just, up Taylor Swift's asshole, basically. I honestly want to retroactively take you out to dinner to celebrate that. You deserve to be studied. You are a human masterclass. Fuck yes, they say it. I've been digging up hatchets. I'll stop now. And just like, okay, maybe some therapy is needed here, because that's quite an extreme Ryan Reynolds almost anger outburst. But then where is it? We move on, right? And I'm going to go through this text thread, which is from December. So that was obviously the 12th of April, 2023. This is actually from the 5th of December, 2024. And this is one of the threads where they're kind of openly like, oh, is everything ready to go? So they're alluding to what we it's to me, even though they don't want to be beaten with his own words, blah blah blah, which to me makes me think, oh, they're referring to the text messages that were obtained through Van Zandt. But here, right, how annoyed is I'm just going to go down to this one actually. How annoyed is Blake Lively in April 2023 that Justin Baldoni doesn't understand pop culture much, and she believes that Justin Baldoni should be treating Taylor Swift as some kind of messiah, and she was completely pissed off and in a rageful kind of moment there, just talking about that in those text messages. And then we move forward, right, to a year and a half later, and there's this text message where she's referring to Scooter Braun. And obviously we all know the history, the beef between Scooter Braun and Taylor Swift, which I mean, I don't overly have too much of an opinion on it. I do think that, like I look at Taylor Swift differently now because of all of this and how I see her speak about people. But he obviously backed Tag, which is Melissa Nathan's PR company, who liably is, who's still a defendant. And there is this line here, and Scooter going about the world with his head held high as he co-owns and funds a crisis PR company that silences women. And I think that's kind of a nod, like she's still angry and, basically trying to take out enemies of Taylor Swift. She also did that as well. We saw that again in this case. I mean, so the original composer Brian Tyler had actually almost completed the score for the film when he was kind of abruptly dismissed by Lively to bring on the composers that were used for Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, she didn't even listen to Brian Tyler's score, right? That's kind of where that landed. And there was rumors kind of taken off that the reason she got rid of Brian Tyler was because she wanted to use Taylor Swift's song, and Taylor Swift refused to allow her if Brian Tyler was involved with the film. And that was reported in the news as well, actually, here. Now, I can't see any trace of Brian Tyler and Taylor Swift ever meeting each other or working together to suggest that there was some kind of feud. I don't know why Taylor Swift would kind of put that stipulation in place. However, it is something to keep in mind here. And Blake Lively just seemed to be on a bit of a tirade to settle some scores with people who would upset Taylor Swift as well. But I think we found out one thing that really upset her. Here. He's been honoured at the Vital Voices for Women event on Monday, right? So Justin Baldoni was getting the honour. Obviously, we all know that this article with the New York Times dropped. The award was rescinded, right? And Blake Lively seemed quite pissed off, And I'm just looking here now. Yes, this inspiring event celebrates men who are using their platforms, influence, and leadership to elevate women, combat gender-based violence, and promote gender equality worldwide. And that's where Taylor Swift actually says he needs to be beaten by his own words. And then this is obviously the talk about, is everything still on track? Oh, yeah, a week later, though, but worth the wait. And then Taylor's like, oh, his own words, that's going to be powerful, right? And to me, I feel like that's really clear that they're talking about the New York Times article. Um, they don't confirm that, but then she says it's the only way to beat liars and hypocrites. But it's this. It's this, right? And don't forget now, like, Justin Baldoni had that award for um kind of positioning himself really as a, like an advocate for women. Well, now he's had it rescinded. And what's Blake Lively doing? Well, she's walking around strutting like a peacock, going, "Oh well, I'm the voice of all women. I speak for women. I'm the ally." So she's basically dislodged him to insert herself, much like she did as a director, as a producer, as pretty much everything. But my title of this video is going to be that I believe that there is evidence in this text thread that Blake Lively knew exactly what caused the backlash. And I think it's here in this final line. And I just wanted to talk about the other things, like why do I think there was such an explosive reaction? Why did they hate on Justin Baldoni? Aside from the obvious things like, well, they didn't like him because they didn't like his brand. They don't just generally don't like nice people because they're so toxic, etc., etc. I think Blake Lively was settling scores for Taylor Swift, not necessarily on Taylor Swift's behalf. I don't know that. Taylor Swift seemed to be partaking in that and not saying to her, oh, please don't do that. It's fine. I can fight my own battles. But this last line, what's the biggest indicator in this entire lawsuit to me that Blake Lively knew exactly what caused the backlash and that it wasn't Wayfarer, it was actually her own actions? She says, meanwhile, I walk around feeling death sentence guilty and apologetic for being sarcastic and liking a theme party. And I was tagged in something on X. I was like, and the person asked me, Dan, what do you think she's talking about when she's talking about sarcasm? And they thought she was talking about Shusty Fla's video, and it could well be part of that too. And they were like, what theme party are we talking about here? And my theory is the sarcastic part is going to be because Shusty Fla come after the premiere. The video was kind of, it was redistributed after the premiere, but the day before you had that, really obnoxious location share video, which to me is the most damaging interview for Blake Lively in her case, because I haven't met anyone, even people who support Lively, who haven't watched that and gone, "Oh my god, yeah, that does not look good." And she, it was just kind of overdosing in sarcasm. Like, it was quite literally, "Well, what shall I do? Give her my phone number, my address, location chat. Oh, let's location chat." And then she starts laughing. And, even Brendan Sklenar, who initially thinks it's a bit of a joke and is kind of smiling along with it, even his face changes when he realizes, oh shit, she's serious. And he starts to look uncomfortable. So that's where I think, like, she's acknowledging that, she is being kind of beaten on by the public for being, one, sarcastic, the location share video. But then what do I think the theme party is? I think it's the marketing. I think it's the florals. I think it's, just promoting it like, well, one of the text messages said Barbie film, and that's exactly what she did. Another thing, actually, and I was in one of my videos a few days ago, I think I was talking about how I had rewatched It Ends With Us movie, right? And I had gone through, like, each of the quote unquote moments of abuse, and I'd been quite critical, and I was like, that's not abuse though, but that's not abuse. And like the last bit where he bit her was clearly abuse. When he was trying to rape her, yeah, that was absolutely abuse too. But the oven incident, I was like, "No, he pulled something, out of the oven, which was burning. He pulled it out without any oven gloves on and burnt his hand." And the way it comes across on the screen, it looks like he just reflexively, you know, let go of the hot item and flung his hand out to go, "Oh my god," like, because 'cause he'd hurt himself. And he caught her face because she was running towards him with an oven glove. And she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I'm not belittling it, but it did not look like that, that he wasn't even looking at her. There was no intent to hurt her. So to suggest that on screen that looked like a moment of abuse, it didn't. And I said the same about when she fell down the stairs, because she was running after him, grabbing at him as he was running down the stairs, trying to get away. And it's inevitable that if you're, chasing someone on a set of stairs, you might fall. He didn't look at her, he didn't push her, he didn't look angry. That's what I'm saying compared to the final event. So, but someone pointed out in the comments, and I went back and double checked this actually, is the oven incident has been cut, right? Because when she has a flashback later on, he is looking at her and he's like, he's saying, and he's kind of mouthing words like "shut up," but I can't hear it because it's a flashback. But the cut of the oven incident is different to the flashback, where in the flashback it does look like it's more deliberate. But the way Lively, and remember this is Lively's cut of the film, right? The way Lively has cut that and put that sequence together, it's almost like she is trying to take out any abuse at all, and she's left in as little as possible. And I think that was a deliberate choice to kind of justify a floral themed, bouncy, fluffy, bubbly, kind of marketing. And the reason she needed it to be bouncy, fluffy, floral, girly, etc., all the things, is because if you look at her, and this is just my opinion, but the drinks that she has, the Betty Boos and Betty Buzz, where they're all like fruity and they are very much a summer barbecue type, out. No, they're not just alcohol. Some are alcohol, some are non-alcoholic. But they remind me of Pimm's, where Pimm's makes sense when you got a glass full of fruit, some ice, and it's the summer, and you're sitting outside by the side of a pool with this kind of fruity, girly drink. In the winter, though, if you're, you wouldn't be marketing that with an advert with, snow and ice and cold weather. And that's, so all the marketing seemed to be geared around, because I think Lively was well aware as well that, drinks with fruits generally take off in the summer. And that could well have been why the sales then plummeted, because no one's sitting outside during the winter drinking these things, and no one's having parties or barbecues and things. And I think that's where actually the fact that she initially marketed them with like a floral theme did it a bit of a disservice, really, because it kind of sealed the stamp that this is, your vacation drink, or your pool party drink. So yeah, I think Lively has made a series of missteps, but this text message for me really does kind of spell out that actually, even within weeks of releasing the New York Times article, even after obtaining all those text messages from Jen Abel's phone through Jonesworks, through Van Zandt, right? Even at this point, Lively was self-aware enough, privately at least, to know that actually some of her own actions were responsible for the backlash she got. This is an acknowledgement of it. Let me know what you think.